nice front and back, leader's garment. Quite happy.
It's alright, isn't it? Looks pretty good in that bad boy.
Excellent, I think the word you're looking for is... Look at that thing. Looks beautiful, done. Beautiful.
Now, only if you're ready for this.
Welcome back to the OTB podcast. We're back at you again. It feels like it's been a long time since we're here, but reality was it's probably only a couple of weeks since World Champs, but hey, that's what happens when we've got all these gaps on. Back in the studio this week, in my co-host seat, as always, James Rennie. Red Dog, it's great to have you back again, mate. Thanks for joining us.
So great to be here, Kerry. The race wasn't the most exciting ever, but this podcast will be, so stay tuned.
100% it will be. And part of that is because we have our power rankings expert, Chris Vanderkolk, back in the studio too.
Yeah, g'day guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I've just spent the last couple of weeks deep in the Panama Papers looking through salaries and payroll, and I tell you what, there is some information in there that I'm looking forward to blowing the lid on tonight. So for our listeners out there, it's a big one.
I can't wait to get into this in a little bit, but before we get in there, as always this year, we've had Smith Optics and Troy Lee Designs on board. And you know what, boys? We have been sleeping on an iconic Smith and Troy Lee Designs athlete from New Zealand. Can either of you think of who that might be? We're going back into the mid-2000s.
Yep.
They won a world championship.
Vanessa.
Yeah, Vanessa Quinn.
Yeah.
I was like...
She had the second setup.
Yeah, I found a picture of her a couple of days ago from World Champs, and I was like, holy fuck, Troy Lee and Smith. Hadn't even picked that one up yet.
Oh, I feel bad.
Yeah, but hey, that's all right. We mentioned on the show last time that Smith have just released their new Rhythm mountain bike goggle, and I'm sure these goggles, well, I know these goggles have definitely elevated a lot in the last 20 years since that World Championship was won. But they're an excellent goggle, and we've also got our winner from our competition to announce at some point in this show. We'll try and remember to do that. We'll get around there.
No, we're definitely remembering.
Race inspired and ready for anything you want to throw at it, from party laps to World Cups. The Rhythm mountain bike goggle has got your vision covered. And also, while you're at it, freshen up your look with some Troy Lee Designs kit on troyleedesigns.co.nz. Don't forget, you can save yourself 15% with the code OTB podcast at checkout. So make sure you get in there, buy some Troy Lee Designs gear, and buy some Smith goggles to keep your vision bloody dialed as well.
I've got a quick question for you, Kerry.
Yeah.
Before we go any further.
Go on then.
Yes or no, party laps or solo ride because you've got no time for everyone else?
Also because I have no friends, so probably solo ride. Yeah, that's my go-to. Solo ride and Wildcats. That's my general setup.
You're in some Wildcats. I could get in some shifts, eh?
Yeah, I run the Wildcats.
Yeah, nice.
I think I might try out some Bobcats though. They're slightly smaller, a bit lighter weight, so it could be good for the trail.
Yep, fair enough.
We'll give that a nudge.
Yep.
There's a little bit of stuff that went on with the World Cup scene leading up to Andorra. First note I've got here. Jackson Goldstone, the prodigal son, was back after missing World Champs with his appendix, I think it was, that he's been having trouble with. He had surgery and had it taken out, and he lost 12 kgs.
That doesn't leave much.
No.
He must weigh
weigh
like 35 soaking wet for a start. But no, he said
he would have been skin and bones at that point. Surely that's not true.
How much does an appendix weigh? 12
11
gigs.
and a half.
Don't Google that.
He was it was on a video I saw, and he was saying how he's like, I don't know, maybe 65 or something
60
beforehand. Yeah, already he was super light,
hell.
and he was down to like 53 or something
50s.
stupid like that. Yeah.
That can't be good.
Why didn't
Can't be good for you.
Why didn't they just put him on a blur? Like, he doesn't need a full blown downhill bike. He's like one of those 13-year-old kids that you see riding downhill bikes. Like, you don't need a downhill bike. Just ride a trail
you
bike.
can't get through the travel.
Yeah, but man, it didn't seem to have slowed him down because he was
Rabid.
he was right on pace with qualifying and everything. But couple of I think it was pretty cool. Good deals for a couple of our junior girls. Looks like Sasha Eunice has got herself some sort of deal with Trek. Looks like maybe it's on the Trek factory team. Nothing's really been announced that I've seen, but she obviously we caught that she was on a Trek at World Champs, and we thought maybe it was a broken frame or something led to borrowing a bike. From what I had a message from a listener who said apparently her dad was walking around with a broken frame in Fort William looking for a frame. That's the story anyway, and so it seems like Trek have picked her up to help her out because she's changed from Fox into 100% kit head to toe. So it seems like there's something going on there, which is cool.
This is also a real reflection of how things have changed in the last 15 or so years. Because 15 years ago, if your dad was walking around with a broken frame, he wasn't looking for a new frame. He was looking for a welder.
No.
He was looking for a local car mechanic who could just tack weld the thing back together. Away you go. But now you just come away with a team sponsor.
Plumbing. That's who he's looking for.
The amount of frames that my brother has welded up mid national series when the national season rolled into Nelson, and bikes were already cracking. There's a number of them. I can remember so many times people calling me, can someone weld up this frame for me? Can someone?
What were the most common offenders?
Everything cracked back then, though, right? Like,
I reckon a few like DH comps and DH teams, like Giants.
Yeah,
I remember Wynn getting one of those done, or Eddie maybe.
Foes weren't great for holding together.
Foes
I think
weren't
a lot of the time.
either.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of bikes that broke. I don't know how many GT frames I went through.
Kerry, can you jump into the juniors' dad's WhatsApp chat and just get the official line on this? Because I'm guessing your contacts and that network, you'd be able to get the official word.
Yeah, we'll have to find out. Another one on a deal, Poppy Lane on a common sale deal. So all
that's awesome.
The 3 junior girls from World Champs Eris was already on that common sale deal that she's on, but cool to see some support going that way for the girls. So
how's that?
Should be
the future of New Zealand downhill is in the hands of the women's field, which is good because
it's amazing.
They seem less inclined to just fuck up.
Yeah, and then there's Ellie Hasselbalch. I don't know how to say her name properly. I'll probably just butcher the hell out of that. From Rotorua, who she can't actually even race juniors yet, but she's heading over to race some IXS Cups and that sort of thing in the back half of this. She's over there in Europe at the moment, I think, do some racing. So I think she's been right on par, if not beating those girls in New Zealand too. So there's more to come, which is cool.
See, that's the right approach. Like, what our junior guys don't do that. They all go over and get, sorry guys, pumped at World Cups as juniors. Go over and do IXS Cups or something. Like, why do they have to shoot for World Cups straight off the bat?
Yeah, go get some experience.
That's got to change. That surely next season will be different. Like, you won't have guys just turning up trying to race World Cups. I mean, sure, if you're in the vicinity, but like, you don't go over to Europe and pin everything against trying to race a World Cup. Surely.
Nah, it was like when I went over as a junior, and the guys, like the guys who are a little bit older than me that were over there racing, Craig Paddle, Tom Holland, those sort of guys, they were like racing French Cups, IXS Cups, everything, and then like the World Cups were they'd go to the World Cups, but it was like that wasn't what the kind of, I would say, the real focus was. It was like they were just doing everything else, going to every race they could, basically.
Swiss Cups, Italian Cups,
and then turning up to World Cups. So
I think probably something that's a little different as well is like our national series isn't probably as competitive as it once was, and so it's probably not as good a place to sort of prepare for an international campaign.
No, and there's such a big gap as well. It's like you need to be over there there's nothing like gate drops, like racing, and nothing gets you up to speed like that, especially when you're getting pummeled by people you've never heard of or anything before. You're just getting thrown in the deep end. So getting pummeled by these fucking guys at European races with big golf ball helmets on and mismatching.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
They just decimate you.
Real Italians.
Who was it? Who was it this week? He wouldn't have done that well in the final, but he qualified well.
He had probably the coolest name in the race. I think I mentioned it in the group chat.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Damn, I can't find it.
Oh, Bandero. Bandito.
Yeah. It's that guy.
Goncalo Bandero.
Antonio Banderas.
Bandera.
Yeah.
Like, it's that guy.
What a legend.
It's that guy coming to absolutely pump you.
Yeah.
Dominic Gaspin.
With,
out of nowhere.
What plate did he have on?
115, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, he had the 56 plate on. So
it's pretty low. No, it's pretty legit.
Yeah, it's pretty legit, yeah.
Staying with the juniors before we get too far off piece, like we always do. Iris van Leuven just smashing another win.
She's on another level, right?
It's her bread and butter now.
She's ripping this season. It's awesome.
What was it, like 13 seconds she put into everyone else?
Oh, I can't actually remember off the top of my head.
Chris Kavaric
I'd have to go back and look at it. Yeah, no, she smashed it. Looks like I've seen a few shots of her and Valley riding together, so it looks like those two are pretty tight, which is cool. She's obviously got someone that's like Valley, that she's learning from and kind of chasing, which is good. Good to have some sort of support like that. It's that's a big help. But no, she's on it. And what I really like about her is that she just doesn't look like she's out there trying to be an influencer or anything. She just races her bike. She just
races and rides, yeah.
She just rides and rips, so that's cool. I like watching her ride a lot, so it's good.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome to see how she progresses into the future, I reckon.
I feel like she's, there's like a lot of juniors who have come and gone, like they're a flash in the pan in juniors, they get into elite and they disappear again. But yeah, I think like she's got real potential to actually to make a pretty legit career out of it, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah,
I reckon as well. It must be it's a good time to be an up and coming junior woman. I'd have to say, like, there'd be a lot of teams that are looking at the women's sort of field and the women's sport and going, we've got to get behind this.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely it's a growing segment for sure. Another note, just in my line of notes as I go through here, our favourite, the Fox pants with the names down the legs for the syndicate, were back again. Just after they'd completely nailed the kits at World Champs, we're back to this.
Have the names got bigger? I feel like Nina Hoffman's name was like...
I think they're going to start.
Massive.
I think they're actually going to start hyphenating them. They're going to have half of it up one leg and half of it down the other leg.
What they've done is they've gone from just the surname to the first name and the surname, and then next race they'll have middle name, and then they'll have like the parents' name and shit. And eventually it's just going to be like just all fucking names.
What about just like the whole front from the chest all the way down to the ankles is just like a huge Manar.
No, well,
massive font.
Goes right over the shoulder and back down.
This is one of the weird things about it is there's a clause in Minar's contract that if Laurie drops below a certain ranking in the year, Laurie just has to have Minar on his kit too.
Oh, right. It's really weird. You have found some deep information.
I know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's like clause 16.2 in his contract.
Right.
It was added mid-season too when you saw the kit. Yeah.
Speaking of kits with the syndicate, I was just watching some highlights earlier just to refresh myself because I'd kind of pushed this race out of my mind after watching it. Nina's helmet looks so big.
That was my next comment.
It's one of those ones where once you see it, you can't unsee it, and she looked like a bobblehead.
Minar's was just as bad. Like, the amount of pink, peachy colour on the front of it was just all-consuming.
Here's a rule about helmet paint jobs that people should have learned a long time ago. If you've got a dark-coloured helmet, never paint the fucking chin bar light-coloured. It never works. It's never okay. There's never been a time where that's okay.
No. Absolutely not. It's inexcusable, Fox, and I want to hear some. They need to make a statement about this.
You know,
They really do.
the one silver lining that also came with some disappointment was Laurie had like a really legit kit because it was just red, but then it had his name down the leg, and then he didn't do very well. So probably more disappointment than anything else. But they were there, just a good red kit, you know.
They were
Yeah.
right there.
And then they
The
blew
world
it.
stuff was just almost perfection for
Yeah.
me, and then
Yeah.
they've gone straight back.
Just
Who do you reckon's weighing in more, Nina or Jackson or Laurie?
Nina.
So it's Jackson.
I think so.
Jackson weighs about the same.
I mean, if
Minar's left
Jackson's
shoe,
32 kgs,
Jackson might be he might be skeletal at this point.
True. Yeah. You know how some of the teams are putting lead weights on their bikes? Like they're just putting lead weights on Jackson's pants.
And his boots and his shoes. His 510s.
Get those heels down, boy.
was it his dad who follows us on Instagram?
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't listen to the podcast.
Welcome to the show.
Oh no! After the power rankings, he's stoked.
Look, if send me Jackson's account number and I'll shout him some Maccas or something.
All right, sounds good.
Get that weight back up.
So I mean, obviously the whole race was just basically a fucking shambles this week, like with delays and no semis, but eventually they got into it. And while we're on the syndicate topic, Nina Hoffman put in a pretty hardy win, nearly 3 seconds. I think I expected to see this like 2 or 3 times this season. It's the first one, so maybe there'll still be something else to come. But this was
You
more.
called her for the title.
I did. I'm sticking by it. It could still happen. Mathematically, there's a chance.
He's got to
there's a
back
chance.
someone because he's shitting on Minar every week. So
Well, no. So here's the thing, though. Like,
I've got a lot of good to talk about Minar this week.
I needed to refer. Someone needs to pull the clip. Did KB shit on Minar at any point, sort of, in the last few weeks? Because that's when he does his best.
he shit on him at the beginning of the season. He just wrote him off for the whole season.
Yeah,
So
that's
just did
true.
a blanket write-off, and this is what we're seeing. On Nina, semi-serious chat. I'm not going to give you a lot of serious chat tonight. It's just, it's not going to happen. But
it's not on brand.
It's definitely not on brand.
But it is interesting. I watched the top 3 women, out of laziness mainly. But
Great for you to really show some support there, mate. The top 3.
I
Fantastic.
watched the top 5 fucking men as well. But well, no, that's not true. I skipped through everything up to the top 5. But
the top 5 was like the worst part to watch.
Yes.
Yeah, like Nina's kind of interesting on that track because there were some sections, like a lot of those straight. That section was sort of straight off camber, quite fast, but where it was lots of kind of small bumps, and she was real smooth and pretty fast across that. And then anywhere it got a bit more physical or a bit more kind of technical, she didn't look as aggressive. And then Valley was like the opposite. Valley looked like she didn't carry speed real well over the small bumps, but then where it was more physical, like it's quite different. I think they look like 2 really different riders in the way that they ride them. Kind of Valley's a lot more aggressive and kind of
Valley looks a bit more
powerful,
very physical
right?
this season.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see how the different tracks are suiting them differently. Also, good to see Tani have a good result. I think that's awesome I'm stoked to see that. Like, she's been through this shit in the last few years.
That was in my nose. It's been a long time coming for her to be back here. So
Absolutely,
that was good to see.
She rode really, really, really well as well. Like, she didn't like luck her way into that. She looked back to her best almost.
Yeah. I was watching the Win TV video and she was saying on there, like, it was a pretty chill run. Maybe that's almost what she needed, just to dial it back and
it's probably for the best
and ride like that. So there was I was obviously Cammy Blanche went out in qualifiers on that road gap that they ended up taking out for finals. She got blown off on that and ended up in hospital. I haven't been able to find any updates. Like, it said she hadn't broken anything, but it sounded like she was pretty beaten up, which is unfortunate. I'd say
there was like a photo of her jersey and it looked like it had literally been like torn off her by a bear or something.
There was a big jump, and if you get blown off that thing, that did not look like it would end well.
Yuck.
So That was pretty unfortunate because it probably has put Valley in a pretty relatively comfortable position. She's got about a race lead over 220 points, so she's got a reasonably hard lead over Cammy at the moment. And I mean, you can't imagine she's going to be back in the next. Well, she's definitely not back this weekend, and probably not for the next round either. So disappointing.
Question, Kerry. I'm wondering because they obviously mentioned they took the road gap out. Having some experience in this arena, and I'd like to call upon the expert Matt Scholes from 2008, where he got blown off that step down at Kaka.
Oh.
Why did they have to shut the feature? Why didn't they just tie a bit of race tape to like a tree or a pole or whatever they had it on? And then as you came over the rise, you had to determine whether or not it was worth dying for.
I agree.
Do you think that was an option?
Maybe we're just at a bit of a higher level than a Kaka Hill National from 2008.
I disagree. I want to see more rolling of the dice.
Yeah, potentially.
There was a lot. Man, there used to be a lot of crashes on that jump. That thing claimed some victims. Jesus.
Do you remember doing that? Like, there'd be a bit of tape like fluttering, and you'd be like, you'd have to gauge because we're all blooming aeronautical experts.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't look too windy. I'll hit that.
You'd come
and
bombing
then you get
down,
shuffled off it.
You came bombing down the ridge, which was generally always a tailwind because of the way the wind blew.
Yeah.
So you had no idea until you crested around the corner of that knob and you saw that bit of race tape and you made a call whether you were going to send the step down or not.
Yeah. Am I going to send it and get blown like 3 meters to the side and land on the road?
And also, you had like about 3 bike lengths of landing before you hit a horrendous G out onto the road as you crossed onto the skid site, which used to just cause all sorts of carnage as well. And then you were straight into another double.
No, that chute, yeah. Oh, the double and then the chute. I remember my Sunday used to bottom out on the landing, through the G out on the road, and then up the face of that double.
I think we need to see more.
You could learn a thing or two, Andorra.
We need to see more roll of the dice sections in World Cup. It's all
Some
too
more
calculated.
sketchy
Everyone's hitting everything. Like there needs to be stuff in the tracks that only 5 or 6 guys being like, yeah, this is worth it.
I feel like there's a lot like that. I mean, we're kind of making a joke of it, but there actually used to be way more stuff like that at World Cups. Like, I remember there's a line on the track in Rotorua that, they race Crankworks on now. And it's probably pretty marginal to jump it now, but at World Champs, Hill and Justin Heineken, his teammate, were the only people that jumped it. Like, it was this gnarly gap across routes onto this wild off-camber landing and down into like a couple of drops and just shit like that used to exist all the time on tracks and it's just not around anymore.
The common denominator there though, Kerry, is they were both riding iron horses.
Well, that's true.
They were,
and there are probably lines like that exist in World Cup tracks, but no one's riding an iron horse, so no one's finding them.
On an iron horse.
That's it.
That's a good point.
I know how to make this happen, though. I know how to make change. We get rid of Chris Ball. He's gone. You bring in the real Chris Milden.
Let's
bring in the
Mildy.
OG. You bring in the OG. He'll get some stuff done.
He'll let some stuff fly.
Yeah.
He'll let the riders decide who gets to race in the elite field. He'll put it up to a vote.
He'll put it up to a vote. He'll circulate. Yeah.
Remember when you used to have to like apply to get into elite? Those were the days.
I remember emailing him.
Yeah. Oh man, good times.
What a good time.
Yeah, that was our time. That was our time right there. Into the elite men's, I guess. I don't know if there's anything else on the elite women's that you think I've missed out there.
No. I do have something on the men's though. The junior men's.
Oh, okay, junior men's. I honestly didn't.
Shout out to Horse.
Oh, Pinky finally got a win. That's right.
Pinky got a win.
All from Horse's tutelage, I'm sure.
A whole great weekend for Horse too. He almost had a guy on the elite men's podium as well.
He did. It was very close.
It was a huge weekend for Horse. And also, does Pinky look like a young Mateo? Just putting that out there. Kind of does.
I'm going to have to look deeper into that, come back to you on that
okay.
one.
Is that one of those
Yeah, no,
things
come back
like
to it, mate.
Mateo is sort of shaping him a little bit? Like,
Hey, he's moulding him.
yeah, like he's just sort of
Maybe.
he's done it. It probably sounds like him a lot as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I hope so.
T-Bow Umbrella took a win. Man, I'm unenthusiastic about this race. It was just not very exciting. It was probably the worst. Well, it was the worst race of the season, without a doubt. I was all pumped to watch it, and we were going to try and get some live commentary going. The fans were excited, and then
All two of them.
then they pushed the race back. So we gave up on that, and I watched it the next day.
How good would have watching downhill at a reasonable time been as well?
Oh
On
no,
a
I was so
Saturday night.
pumped for it. I was like, I can watch downhill on a Saturday night at like 8:30. This is amazing.
Yeah, cancel those dinner plans with your wife. We're watching downhill.
Yeah. Sorry, love. Downhill was on. So that was a letdown for a start. But then, so I started watching the race on Sunday, and I was like, this is all like, it kind of took a little bit for it to get going, and then it got going quickly. I mean, Tahoto was in the hot seat for quite a while, so that was good. That was cool to see. He finished up 14th in the end, so good result for him. But I was like, this is going well. And then, shit started going wild. Like Anton Vidal went into the lead, like kind of out of nowhere. Good ride from him. Then Manar, and that was when I really actually woke up and started paying attention.
There was a Manar-like ride too.
He looked
like-
fast.
He looked good.
Looked fast, looked spicy.
He didn't look stiff like he has been. Like I reckon he'd been looking uncomfortable earlier in the season, but man, he looked fluid, and his run was actually faster than qualifying too. Just as a note. Plus, they weren't doing the road gap.
Who do you think was the last rider? So go through the results again, but who do you think was the last rider to have a dry track, like a essentially be on the same
Tebow.
Tebow, you reckon?
Yeah, and then Finn started getting rain, so Finn kind of got the last of a like semi-okay track. So that was like, I think Tebow was 11th qualifier, Finn was 10th, something like that. Is this the right thing? I'm just going back to try and look at. Mate, are you
drinking out of a kid's bottle?
Jesus Christ.
That's actually quite bizarre, to be honest.
It was there.
Yeah, Tebow was 11th qualifier, Finn was 10th. And then, it started raining when Finn was on track. You could see that. By the time that Mr. Kolb got on the track just after him, the track looked pretty fucked. Like, the top was slippery. That was... but yeah, Tebow and Manar, they were only 0.121. And then it was 2.3 seconds back to Finn. So you can kind of see Finn got pushed back a bit for sure. That is a loud tap.
Sorry. Didn't think you'd hear that. Who
You've got your microphone attached to you, mate.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm still here. Like when Horse was on a couple of months ago and he went off to the bathroom. Not quite the same.
I think that was a year ago, but anyway.
Who do you reckon, of the riders that came down after Tebow, who do you reckon performed the best in the conditions? I know it's a bit of a... Because Loic's run was gnarly, given how wet he had it.
Bruni for sure put down the best run of the shit conditions. Like, he was 22nd, so like it wasn't exactly like a standout result, but man, he was pushing so hard.
And Jackson's run, half of it with a flat tyre, was fucked. I reckon he would have been threatening if he didn't get a puncture.
Yeah, it's interesting because that was what I was thinking, but I went back and I'm actually just looking at his splits at the moment, and he was like 53rd, 41st, 56th. Like, I remember watching his run and thinking like, Jesus, he is on one. But maybe it wasn't quite as good as I thought it was.
It was weird
Yeah.
that the bit you saw, like, because you saw a lot of the bottom half of the track, right? And from what you could see to the times, it didn't look that slippery or wet. Like,
Yeah, there was
but it
sections.
must have been enough. And they were going so fast as
It-
well that, like, there's no way you want to push.
I think
There was one section I remember watching Bruni come through, and he's in like powder dry stuff, and then he hits this one piece, which is obviously quite firm and wet, and his front end is like stepping. You can see his front end turning and sledging,
Yeah.
and that's just out of nowhere. So it's like it's just probably one of those ones where it was so varied that like
it also looked
you
like
can't push.
anything that was rock or root just got fucking slick. Like those rocks
Yeah.
had that shine on them that you can just tell they're going to be slippery as hell.
So much of that track looked exposed as well.
Yeah.
You know, like there's not a lot of it that actually has tree cover. So like a lot of it was wet. And it's like, did you see Kolb's huge drift in like one of the turns at the top? Like just out of nowhere, he's just sideways.
Even Jackson, like it's kind of it's real momentary in the first corner, the first left. He's so out of shape, but he's so gnarly that he holds it. And it's just because those first corners were obviously so firm and so slick once they got a bit of rain on them.
Yeah, just rock solid.
It sort of looked like with Finn, it looked almost like if the rain had kind of come in and then stopped, the last couple of guys might have actually had a better track, but it kept raining. So
yeah. And it was also hard to see how bad it was raining, like from the coverage, but it looked like because the track got wet rapidly, like you could see the track get wetter, so it was obviously came in reasonably heavy. So it's kind of shit because it just ruined their top 10, like especially when you look at the times and like Tebow and Minar were just faster than Bruni's qualifying time without doing the road gap, which had to be slightly slower to go around that.
Yeah, it definitely would have been.
So there would have been a good race on, I think. So
it was interesting though because the top 10 was still racing for points, and so obviously if you kind of like if you were watching the top 10 and you kind of ignored the fact that none of them were going to take the podium, there was a race going on in that top 10, which was pretty interesting. And that's why, like with Jackson, like he blew his tyre, but he was fucking going for it with a flat tyre.
And this is the fucked part of this race because they didn't do a semi-final. So there's no semi-final points up for grabs, which pays all the way back to 60th, I believe. But then so they just raced a final with 60 riders. So now those protected guys like Jackson, who else would have been back there? Kolb, Jordan Williams, Benoit. There's a few of them. Loris. Those guys end up with no points at all. Whereas if it was normal finals and there was only 30 riders in the finals, they would have been still guaranteed some points because finals pays back to 30th.
That's real weird.
So now they get 0 points.
That is real weird as well, right? Because all those guys who qualified, who were in the big show because the semis were cancelled, who were starting from 30th back, had the best track, probably got decent points. Like there would have been some of those guys in that bottom 30 who got better points than the top 30, but they're only there because the semis got cancelled.
And it's shit because all of a sudden, like Loris and Jackson, who were right there with Finn in the overall points. I mean, Jackson was leading, Finn was second, I think Loris was third, but they were separated by like nothing. All of a sudden, 2 of those 3 guys get 0 points from finals. So they've just been bumped.
They can semis, but they had qualifying.
Yeah, so they still did qualifying. So they took 61 riders out of qualifying. And instead of that being like whittled down to 30, which is normally what out of semis, they just ran 61 for finals.
That's pretty interesting that they chose to take all 60 into finals and not just take the top 30 from qualifying.
Yeah. So I mean, even like say worst case, if those guys were in the bottom of the finals, those 4 protected guys I was talking about, they would have got like 30 points each at minimum. Yeah, so now like, Jackson scored no points in finals, and he's like well over 100 points back from Finn now. So it's like, I mean, you obviously can't take anything away from Finn. Like, he didn't choose to qualify where he qualified. Like, it's not like he knew.
No.
Not like he knew or anything. He was just the one who got lucky and obviously capitalized from it. And Tebow also, because Tebow's moved into third overall now. And then Loris has dropped back to fourth. And I think Bruni's maybe moved up a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of definitely skewed those results a wee bit in terms of the overall.
The thing I found the weirdest is that they didn't look to make the race equal to the others.
Yeah.
Like, if it's how many race series, each race should be the same points on offer, and then they've now dropped this one lower. It makes it not equal to the rest.
Yeah,
which doesn't seem like a fair thing in there. Because if you say got injured or didn't qualify for some reason, this one, then it kind of becomes less. You kind of come out winning a little.
It'd be interesting to know whether or not I guess you never know, but whether they had protocol for something like this, or whether they were making it up on the fly. Because
I reckon they were making it up.
Yeah, it seems a bit like that, eh?
I mean, you'd hope they'd have protocol for it, but at the same time, I'd very much doubt it. Yeah.
Like, it's essentially, for the team running, it's the first time they've dealt with anything like this, right? And they've had a million other things to try and organise. Like a whole new format itself.
Yeah. It's kind of a bit messy. Yeah, see, this is actually the weird thing too, because semi-final points normally run all the way down to 60th place. So if you make it out of if you make it out of qualifying, you get some overall points. You'd think what they should have, I mean, looking at it now in retrospect, they should have still paid those semi-final points from 30th back to 60th. Yeah, I reckon. Like, so at least you still got some points.
Yeah,
they should have made it something there, because
you got nothing, eh?
They got zero. Anyone from 31st back got zero. So yeah, I don't know.
Interesting, Kira. You said overall points, not UCI points, which seems to be the
that was a hot topic
thing from before the race with Brayton missing out. That was a really hot topic coming in.
It's a bit of a fuck up, really, that too, I reckon. Like, the fact that Brayton's been in like every semi-final this season and has been pretty consistent, and then he hasn't gained any UCI points from it, and so all of a sudden he can't race at Andorra. Like, it's
So I missed the detail of that. How was he racing prior to Andorra? Was it because
it's your points over the last 12 months.
They run out.
So he's had points expire before this round, and so now he doesn't have the threshold of whatever the points is he needs, 70 points, or I don't know what the points, how many UCI points you need.
That's 60 maybe now.
That's hectic that you wouldn't get UCI points for being in a semi at a World Cup.
Yeah. And I mean, like, he said, he's like, it's kind of my mistake, because he just looked at the fact that he was getting World Cup series points and figured that he was getting UCI points. Like, he didn't really pay that much attention to it. And he said, like, I should have probably realised this, but you just expect that if you're getting, points for the overall, that you're getting UCI points at the same time. But it wasn't the case.
So he has to go and get a stack of UCI points somewhere before next year then, right?
Well, yeah. And that's the hard thing. Like, they're not always that easy to find races. Like, you got continental cups like Oceania Champs or like Pan American Champs and that sort of thing. Like, weird races like that, European Champs.
Yeah.
And then, like, it totally depends on if you've got, like, I mean, we haven't had a national series around in New Zealand for probably over 10 years that's had UCI points.
Really?
Yeah.
So this brings me to...
It used to be all the time.
This brings us to
a couple a year.
The topic on what the feeder series is going to be. That'll put way more importance for people. Like, you'll get guys travelling to those events that have got UCI points. Like, Brayton's now going, well, I'm going to have to go to the Pan American Champs or somewhere to get some UCI points, right? And there'd be a heap of dudes like that.
And then it totally depends on where you're at, because when Continental Champs, you can only score points if you're in that Continental, like Oceania Champs, you have to be in the Oceania region. So, there's not a real clear pathway. That's my biggest issue with it. Like, yeah, sure, you've got to score these points, but it's not consistent. Like, if you're in New Zealand or Australia, there's 2 races a year. You've got your national champs and you've got Oceania champs, depending on which country that's in, to score points at. And, like, I mean, I think from memory, if you win Oceania champs, it's like 200 points. So, like, if you can get kind of a top 5 there, you're pretty well and truly in. But, like, I don't think you get a whole lot from national champs.
No, it's not.
I reckon because the
heaps. It's not bad.
The Enduro World Cup Series, or EWS, is far more well set up for this, right? Because they've had the EWS 100 for a while now to solve this very problem, and that's now effectively the feeder series plus a bunch of races around the world that are qualifying races. And the thing I like, being optimistic, that's all been done under Chris Ball, right? And you'd have to expect that they'll be trying to establish a similar thing, either like a World Cup 100 or like assigned qualifying races or events or something that are a bit more established and a clearer pathway for guys and girls.
So I reckon, I don't know whether I've ever said it on here, but I've always had this, well, not always, but I've had this idea of that there should be like it's like Formula 1, Formula 2, have like a World Cup 2 series, which the regular World Cup series goes from, a regular World Cup round, let's say, does track walk Thursday, practice Friday, Saturday, race Sunday, whatever. Have a race that races like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And that can be where you score points. If you're in the top 5 of that, then you can race in the World Cup the next weekend sort of thing. Like, there's got to be some sort of feeder, actual clear feeder series into this.
I reckon, I agree that it has to be a feeder series. I reckon the logistics of trying to run a feeder series race the same weekend as a World Cup race is just not feasible. Like, it works in motor racing, for example, because the track doesn't change. It's easy to schedule people in and out. It's pretty, like, everything's pretty fixed. I reckon, like, other sports, like, I keep banging on about it, but skiing, where you've got like the Europa Cups.
Here we go.
I'm gonna go on about it, but I reckon it.
Are you into skiing? Are you?
Nah,
does a bit of skiing, does he?
Not these days, eh? Not in this climate. But no, I reckon it has to be like a continental thing, right? And you could run the same racetrack.
Yeah.
You go, okay, well, you effectively run the Andorra World Cup racetrack, but it's on a different weekend. It's part of a Europe Cup, and then you might have 2 like pretty well established big race series where you can go to prove your worth in like the States and Canada and in Europe, and the teams are looking to those 2 series to kind of pull their guys from.
Yeah.
The counter to that is that in the States, I remember when I was racing and I didn't qualify at Wyndham, they ran like I don't know if it was a
citizens race.
The States Carpool, the citizens race. And so I didn't qualify, so I just jumped on over to the citizens race where you could probably win some money. Didn't, but they ran it on the same weekend. Weekend. It wasn't midweek.
I can't remember the logistics of that, but they definitely had a citizens race on at like the same time. Basically, it was wild.
Yeah. So like Kerry's idea isn't that far fetched. They can do it, but different track, Chris, was the thing.
Oh, they ran it a whole different track on the same weekend.
Yeah, it's the other side of the chairlift. Completely separate.
To be fair, pretty much any of these World Cup venues should have the ability to run a separate track as well.
Yeah, I don't think Andorra could even provide a functional pit
space.
That's
the thing, though. Like, it depends. It depends on like who hosts these races, right? Like, it's essentially like a local mountain bike club and like a local town and city and whatever else that gets behind it, and the event itself has sponsors and everything. I'd be interested to know what the value is to the event hosts themselves, because some of these huge races, they're probably taking a decent bit of take from people who are attending the races, but
I guarantee so much of it is funded by like local tourism boards and stuff like that. Like that's where all that money's got to come from to make this stuff happen. Because
exactly,
yeah.
And that's the thing. So
It's not-
if you now run like a feeder series race on the same weekend, you've got to double your costs to do it. But
Yeah.
whereas say F1 for example, part of running an F1 race is that you also have to run the F2 and the F3 and everything, and it's I mean that's how a traditional race weekend works in motor racing. Is that there's
Speaking of F1, like imagine the downhill series you could run on Max Verstappen's salary alone.
I know.
Like,
well, we're going to cover that
in incredible.
In the power rankings actually.
All right. Well, I've got one more complaint about Andorra, and it was that stupid fucking triple that they built where they'd like,
Oh yeah,
and it was so bad. It was like this terrible roller thing, and they'd obviously tried to make it a bit of a feature because they had like a bit of grandstand seating and stuff there. It's that's my last complaint about Andorra for the week.
But did you like the track like as a whole?
I think it looked good. Like I've watched some helmet cam runs and that from it, and I thought it looked good, but I didn't get that excited watching it. Like I don't know, I didn't find it very exciting to watch for whatever reason.
I reckon they must have had a hell of a time trying to get the coverage sort of consistent and dialed, because that's one thing I noticed about it. It was really consistent. There were some riders where you got like a drone follow cam, and it was really sick. In the top section, you got all those corners and everything, and then you wouldn't see the drone follow cam again for like 5 riders, and
the drone probably got blown to Spain.
100%. Like they had like 7 or 8 different drones that they'd send up, and they just picked a rider at random. And it's a bit of a shame because it was hard to tell what parts of the track were important in the footage. It was actually pretty hard to follow where they were at on the course.
Yeah, it was a bit of an odd one.
This was the first track in a while where I was like, yeah, I'd probably like to ride there. Like that bit with them going, I think this is more entertaining than watching like the likes of the motorway at Leo Gang, where it's just like jumps and cares. Like the bit where they're just macking, it was like that straight section, kind of when they're starting to enter the trees, and it's like kind of off camera, and they're just going like 1,000.
Yeah,
and it's narrow, and I reckon that looks so impressive.
There was bits on this,
but I was like, oh man, that bit should be real fun to ride.
There were bits on this track that looked like I can't remember exactly what it is, but it looked like some of the US tracks they used to race in the Norbers, like I think it was like Snowshoe, where it's just super blown out and dry and rocky and stuff and fast. Like more of that, please.
Yeah, that stuff's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm down with that.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Right, I've got a segment we're going to try out. It's called "Don't Get Me Started." Basically, you can come up with a topic, pass it on to the next person, and they've just got to complain about it, because I mean that's mostly what we're doing here is complain. So
it's good stuff.
Well, I don't really know how to start it though.
Just don't get me started.
Red Dog. Give me a don't get me started.
Am I saying don't?
You give me a topic. Don't get me started on.
I'm gonna use it. Don't get me started on the fact that for some reason people don't know how to talk into a cell phone anymore. Like, when did holding it up to your ear like a conventional telephone go out of fashion? Like, why do you hold it like a blimmin', like you're serving drinks on like a bar platter thing? Like you kind of hold it flat and as if you're walking around with your treble blimmin' music going. What are you doing?
On a side topic of that, do people think that counts as hands-free when they're driving and doing that? Because it's really easy to see you've got your phone in your hand and you're talking on it when you're holding it up to your face.
I don't know. It's like, why are you doing that? And also, I don't need to hear your conversation. Like, why you got it on speakerphone?
Yeah,
Drives me nuts.
just put your phone up to your ear. Maybe those phones don't have speakers in the top of them anymore. Not really sure.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the only thing I can think of is how Horse had that baby boomer wallet phone.
Oh yeah.
Remember he had the flap on his iPhone like a
Do you reckon
boomer
he's
with his
still
cards
running
in
that?
it.
These days he
he's
definitely is.
running that
He's a
convenience
busy
class.
guy. Like he's probably got
So-
like a little calculator on the inside of it these days.
I saw a next level version one of those the other day, and I meant to take a photo to send you guys. It was the wallet attached to the phone type thing, but the flap was actually a full zip up wallet. Like the phone was actually just attached to a wallet. It was great.
That's the Horse. Get on that, mate. Look on
Yeah.
AliExpress for that. But I can see why you'd like speakerphone that, because otherwise the flap constantly hits you in the face.
Yeah, that would be a pain.
Can't be having that.
Look, my don't get me started this week is Countdown. What a dismal fucking place to visit.
When did you visit Countdown?
So I made the mistake, because Countdown's the closest supermarket.
Thank you, Kerry.
Last week. I made the mistake of going, and only because they have finally got with the future and they have a self-checkout there. So the Countdown next to my place, they have
Bollocks.
They have 8 checkouts, but only ever one of them is open. And so they finally have some self-checkouts. All I needed to go do was get some pasta and something else. I'm looking fucking everywhere for this pasta. It's finally I find the hole on the shelf where it's meant to be, and I can't see it. And I look up on the top of the shelves, and there's the full box of it sitting up on the top of the shelves. So I climb up, pull the box down, get the packet out I need, and dump the box on the floor and walk away.
Firstly, my first question. They don't have a self-checkout at the Countdown near your house.
No, they do now. They finally have that.
But they didn't.
No, not for a long time.
They have had self-checkouts for 15 years.
I know.
They were around at the Pack and Save across the road from my flat when I went to uni.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on, Countdown?
Yeah. But if they want to get behind a mountain bike podcast, great people, obviously.
Oh, yeah,
but,
no, the greatest supermarket I've ever been to. Yeah, absolutely.
But just so far, yeah.
So done.
Yeah.
I fully thought this segment was supposed to be about bike-related stuff.
Hey, maybe it
No,
will
it's
be,
anything.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe it will be
fair
bike
enough.
related. Have you got a don't get me started this week?
Well, I've been
Chris?
racking my brain on it, and I do have something to get me started about. Don't get me started about these ironic speed dealer sunglasses. You look like Action Bronson.
Oh, no.
Fuck. They're the worst. And
Get out of here with those.
And do you know Pit Viper is in on that too? Just to make them, and I don't. If they do want to sponsor,
if they want to sponsor
a Mountain Bike podcast,
sorry,
go elsewhere.
Don't get me started about
taking
Pit
the
Viper.
money.
Nah, I'm a Smith guy.
Yeah, it's just the worst. Those stupid fucking sunglasses. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. That's terrible. It's terrible stuff.
Great.
Should we do our Smith giveaway while we're talking sunglasses and eyewear?
Absolutely, let's do this. I'm so excited by this.
Red Dog, did you actually manage to get some audio working on this?
If you guys could hear it before, then I'm happy to play it.
So if you missed last episode, we asked listeners to leave us a voicemail on our SpeakPipe, which is in our bio of the Instagram page, giving us their best Nathan Rennie, very nice, from the intro of the podcast. And let's just say it did not go how we hoped.
Well, at one point, I was sending them through to the group, and KB said, "Let's just send the glasses to Nathan Rennie as an apology for this segment."
Yeah,
and I wholeheartedly agree. It did not.
Yeah.
It hasn't gone well. I've lost faith in our listeners. The little faith I had.
I think we may have some audio footage, and we're gonna have to choose a winner out of this. So let's.
I'll play it, and then you guys can we can discuss afterwards.
Okay, all right, hit us with it.
Okay, hopefully you can hear it. Oh, hang on, he's gone. He's skipped forward.
He's gone. We've got a.
Oh no, hang on, you've got to give it.
Nice, very nice.
So that's Octo Dad. He was the first one in. He actually made 2 submissions, but
We should have
this is
seen
the most controversial.
We should have seen Borat coming. How did we miss that?
Can we just start by just giving Octodad, like his due? He called in, he contributed, he took part, and that takes a lot. But I'm not sure he listened to the brief.
He's also got 8
Hey,
kids.
he's
I don't know
fucking
how he does
busy.
it. Yeah.
Oh, he's a saint for starters. But I think that's an instant disqualification because he's done a Borat impression.
Yeah, not down.
Okay, moving on.
Nice, very nice.
Where are we at?
That's
I don't
also
even know what that
a
is.
Borat impression, I think.
It sounds like a cat.
That's from that one's from Emma Bater. Thanks for making the submission, Emma.
Emma, I
KB has informed me that you're actually a Smith ambassador of some form, so you're also disqualified.
Yeah, I appreciate the time you took, but I think we might have to cut you out of this one too. So.
Yeah. Emma's got to renegotiate her deal with Smith because she's got to the level where she's trying to get her cat off a podcast.
Yeah, definitely don't use that as a sort of bargaining chip. That audio.
No.
All right, last one. We had 3, actually 4. Octodad submitted twice, but we've used the Borat one. We had 3 submissions. Like, how much would these sunnies be worth, Kerry? How much?
Goggles. There's a couple of $100 worth of goggles
whatever we're giving away.
They're a very nice pair of goggles. Geez, I should have
put
a submission in.
How much do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to actually
go. Couple of $100-ish?
Yeah, I reckon.
Like,
surely.
What is wrong with our listeners, eh? This is like the easiest thing of all time.
I know.
Anyway, last one.
Nice. Very nice.
Oh, it's a winner. It's got to be. It's the closest Nathan impression of all of them.
That was submitted by Rob Moore. I feel like he is an avid Earth watcher, and he's understood the brief.
He gets it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well done, Rob Moore. $199 for the Smith Rhythm goggle, but for Rob Moore this week, he's getting a pair for free.
Does Rob Moore have to pay postage and packaging?
I think we can probably get that covered.
Thanks, Bosh.
Send us a self-addressed envelope, Rob. We'll get him back to you.
Get some stickers to you.
Yeah, Rob probably does have to send us his address, otherwise he's not getting these things.
Yeah, well played, Rob. Send us a DM and we'll get you lined up with a new set of Smith Rhythm goggles. I believe they're in the Iago Gary colorway.
Ooh.
So nice little.
Does he have a signature colorway?
Yeah, nice little kind of black and I'd say kind of like a black and gold. So yeah, pretty tidy little set of goggles there.
Would you say that's nice? Very nice.
I would say that's nice, very nice, and it's probably well worth the the effort that Rob put into that entry. So well done.
Are we ever doing a call voicemail competition again?
I don't think so. I think we will.
For the listeners, KV was dead against playing any of that audio. He was so ready to wash his hands of this thing.
I was almost at the point of just starting a whole new competition, but we sold it on. Yeah, a whole new podcast.
Hey, we had 3 people call in, or maybe more than 3. We had a handful of people call in. That's positive. This is,
It was 3. It was 3.
That's it. I mean, I know a guy that had a handful and there was only had 3 fingers, so I guess that counts as he'd lost a couple at some point, so it was a handful for him.
Hey, whoever said progress is a slow process, never met.
Yeah,
Snoop Dogg.
It's a slow burn. We've got a pretty. I mean, I feel like we've got a pretty decent amount of listeners. To only get 3 people into that's a sad state of affairs. So that serves a warning to all you listeners that if you actually want to win stuff, try and enter because there's a good chance you're going to win.
You're going to win some shit. Like
the odds are low. So I reckon to round us out this week, Chris, I'd like to hear this week's power rankings.
Ooh, okay. Well, let me get started. I think Kerry for
who's in focus this week.
Okay, so for our listeners who just came up to speed, the power rankings is something we put together in the OTB corporate offices. We do a little bit of forensic accounting, and we look into some of the big movers and shakers in the world of downhill to see who sits where in the company payroll, i.e. the power rankings. Last week or week before last, we looked at Santa Cruz. A quick aside, there has been a shake-up there. Laurie has actually been docked his previous week's salary because of his poor performance this week. But that just kind of goes with the theme of Laurie being paid whatever's left over after they pay Greg and Greg's mechanic and everyone else. But today we're looking at
Greg's new mechanic or old mechanic?
both still
Both.
get paid. It's just part of the deal.
Plus his bonus.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a long list of people that get paid out of the salary that there because of Greg, but that's we're not doing Santa Cruz this week.
Yeah, we're on to a new
we're looking
this
at
week.
the Big S, the specialized power rankings.
Ooh, we're moving down the S's.
We are, and unsurprisingly, specialized is a little more complicated. So before we get into the team financials, one of the things that won't come as a massive surprise is the top two earners in the specialized power rankings being paid out of the DH budget or the gravity budget aren't even mountain bikers at all. So Jeremy McGrath actually tops the list. He's getting paid more than anyone else. And what was really surprising, and we're still trying to determine whether or not this is some kind of tax break, but Ken Block's estate is still earning more than anyone else on the DH team. So Specialized knows the power of influencers, dead or alive. So that's bad.
Ken did rip a demo 8.
He ripped a demo 8. Yes, he
sure did.
Exactly. And he actually he's responsible for selling more e-bikes than anyone who's ever raced a DH bike. So moving on though, one thing we found is that Loic actually controls all the team finances personally. The payroll is handled a little differently to what you'd expect from a giant corporate. You'd think it would be a bit more structured, but it's really not. So essentially the way it works is Jack gets paid first. He takes a regular salary and a discretionary bonus, subjective of how many times the media comment on how balanced the bike is and how many times Cedric says something dumb about how quickly the bike resets itself from big compressions, which he did about 15 times this weekend, so Jack did well. Loic's girlfriend takes a healthy salary because she keeps him balanced himself. Loic's dad actually makes more off selling Loic's old race jerseys than Jordan Williams makes, but we'll get to that and why that is. Kate Courtney receives a weekly wage which comes out of the DH budget. Now, this is an interesting one. This is just so that the Big S is covered when they get audited for gender pay equality. Notice the Big S doesn't have any females on their World Cup DH team, so they're just keeping themselves covered there. Finally,
but she rides for Scott.
No, she's still getting funneled money from the Big S from her specialized days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's very
right?
complex. Yeah.
Oh, it's very complicated. It is. Yeah.
But so that's
checks and balances.
That's everyone that gets paid before Finn gets paid. Right. So Finn, he gets paid 100% based on how subservient he is to Loic. Which is why this weekend particularly you saw him give big cuddles to Loic on the finish line, even though he smoked him, and also why he's starting to look more and more swole and like Loic, so he can ride the bike like him. It's kind of like a love bonus. So again, just another example of Loic exerting his dominance across everyone in his orbit. Now, Jordan, new addition to the team, he only gets paid if he beats Jackson because that's essentially why he's there. He's there to counter the sort of the Jackson effect.
I thought he might have actually been paying to be on the team.
Well,
that was what I was kind of leaning towards. But
this is the thing, right? So there is another side to this. He only gets paid if he beats Jackson, and even then, that comes out of Finn's wages. When he outperformed Loic, he actually had his pay docked, and every time he looks at the prototype or even touches it, mentions it, he gets fined, which means he's currently in debt. So he's the only specialized team rider to win a race. Yeah. But he's in debt to Loic.
First round of the season was a real kick in the dick.
Kick in the dick. Speaking of debt, this is something that we didn't expect to see. There's a number of specialized riders who are or ex-Specialized riders who are also in debt to Specialized. So Chris Grice owes the equivalent of several years worth of travel and accommodation just for never living up to expectations. And
Oh,
I hate to say it,
Benji
guys,
did pretty
but
well this weekend. Didn't
yeah, but he's paying his way now. He's paying to be there, so he's like a pay per rider.
He's racing for his dinner.
Exactly. He's got to dance for it. And this is a little bit uncomfortable to read this, but Sam Hill actually has similar problems where he's kind of in debt to the expectations that he had on him. But the good news is he's got Rennie running.
He won a world championship for him.
I know, but and then he faded, right? And he didn't talk to the media. He wasn't that interested. The good news is, though, guys, is he's got Rennie running security, so he doesn't actually have to service any of that debt at all. So all's well that ends well.
I'm just happy that Rennie's got some steady work.
Rennie does. Well, Rennie's actually making more money
Seems
off running
to.
security within the mountain bike industry and being a stand-up man than riding bikes, which is good. That's
good
for all.
That's good.
And then finally, there are some oddities in the payroll which are not that surprising. For example, Palmer, because we didn't mention Palmer, he's actually still getting paid by Specialized, but it's kind of complex because they're paying him so that he keeps himself disassociated from the brand because he's a bit of an embarrassment these days and doesn't really vibe with the current Specialized brand. But also so that if he ever does make a return to mountain biking, that he picks a different brand, specifically Santa Cruz, which is why a couple of years ago we saw him try and make a comeback and it just didn't go that well. He was on a Santa Cruz. So that was actually coming out of the Specialized salary.
He was actually
curious, right?
He was actually on an intense, but that's all right. We won't get into it too deep.
no point. Yeah. Don't get facts in the way.
Intense Santa Cruz, the same thing, right? And unsurprisingly, Cessla still has access to the petty cash jar.
Cool.
Was there any sign of Darren Bearcloth in there?
Well, so this is really weird.
Was he still getting paid per 360 off a cliff drop?
No. So Darren Bearcloth and Matt Hunter were interesting, right? You'd expect to see them in there, but Specialized kind of wiped their hands of the free ride days, mainly because of the real punishing bike designs and stuff they had. There is no record or trace of that in any of the forensic financials that we had. Having said that, Matt Hunter, I don't believe, ever received a salary. They just gave him a little corner in the office that kind of made him feel good.
Do you think they put all that stuff through the shredder?
Yeah, they shredded it real quick. Yeah. And I mean, the other thing,
it was pre-email days. That was in the days of faxes and shredders.
100%. And the whole downhill team's actually been running as a shell company anyway. So it's it's interesting. Look, it took a lot of digging, but yeah,
it's incredible what you're able to find, Chris. You're a real forensic sleuth.
So if the listeners have got any requests on other teams we want to look into, we can do that. We have got our eyes on Canyon. They've got a weird contra deal with Mondraker for Fabian, which also goes back to the Kona days. So it's complex. It's a network.
It's a massive network. All I can think of is the meme of the guy from, I think maybe I can't remember what the show is, but he's in front of a string board and there's just shit everywhere and he's just losing his mind trying to explain it all.
You wait till we get into
what's going to happen.
You wait till we get into the Athertons.
Oh boy,
yeah, that whole thing's a tax write-off.
I can't wait. Well, if you've made it this far through the show, congratulations. You've made it to the end of another episode, and you've done yourself really well. We haven't even talked about Ludenville, but I don't know. I feel like this has gone on long enough, and it's time for bed. So, we'll why don't we throw a quick prediction out? From what I can see, that track looks steep and real off camber. So, give us a men's and women's winners prediction. Red Dog.
And I'm going to say Valley because I'm going to go Nina.
All right. How about you, Chris?
I was going to say Loic, but because Red Dog did, I'm going to say Jackson, and I'm going to say Valley.
All right. I'm going to come in here, and because of his outstanding result, and he's going to be hungry to go one better, Manar.
Oh, you've fucked him now.
Manar for Ludenville. Now we'll see. We'll get there when it's time. And I'm going to go... I think I'm actually going to go with Valley. Strong, ready for the steep. So, yeah, I'm going to go Monaro and Valley.
Nice.
We'll see how we go. All right, boys. Once again, fantastic work. You really brought the heat tonight. And for all the listeners, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
What's up?
I come from the land of down under. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. What was that? I can't hear you. I let it be like John Lennon, the anti-serum that you don't get for poisonous venom. Read the label carefully, I'm only here for the show. I love hip-hop too much to let you feed my ego. In the key of F-U-C-K, Y-O-U. I mean, why do I owe you if you're not helping me through? I mean, why do I owe you if you're obstructing my view? Success is not my castle, just a house that's brand new. You see, I irrigate the culture, give it shape like a sculpture. Still complicated, rock like I'm supposed to. B-L-I-T-Z like my DJ. Rock to the rhythm like you rock to what he plays.